SpongeBob SquarePants is a show that has never directly commented on real-world religions. Kids shows on major networks need to keep things pretty secular, so they don't explicitly endorse or target one specific faith. But just because SpongeBob has never had an episode calling out a specific faith by name, that does not mean that it's never told stories that comment on the concept of faith. And there is one such SpongeBob story that I think does comment on faith that I would like to share with you today. Chapter 1. The Magic Conch. So the episode begins with Squidward getting annoyed with SpongeBob and Patrick, who are sitting in this treehouse and have adopted this strange speech pattern where every word they speak starts with a W.
Wait, look! It's Squidward!
This immediately establishes a sort of in-group, out-group dynamic between our two dopey sea creatures in the treehouse and our cynical cephalopod on the ground. SpongeBob and Patrick have this high-up distance. They are speaking strangely. They are talking about how Squidward isn't a member of the club. A lot of their communication gets muddled by their actual physical distance. Since Squidward has trouble hearing them, he misunderstands what they mean when they say he wouldn't fit in. They meant literally, Squidward thought they meant metaphorically. This leads to Squidward getting stuck inside the treehouse. Already, this opening gives the audience a lot of dense concepts about the nature of communication, how easily communication can be muddled and misunderstood, and the nature of the desire for the out-group to want to be a part of the in-group for no other reason than the in-group said you won't fit in. Then, after attempting to escape, the treehouse is flung into the kelp forest, completely stranded in the wilderness. At first, both Squidward and Patrick are shown as being completely discouraged by their current situation, thinking it hopeless. This is shown in different ways. Squidward panics and complains, while Patrick just kinda accepts their demise and starts building them coffins. A funny contrast to how both of these characters respectively give up hope. But SpongeBob has not lost hope. Why? Because of the magic conch. So the magic conch is the main object of the episode and the thing that drives the rest of the episode's plot. The way the magic conch works is that you ask it a question, pull on a string, and it gives you an answer, similar to a magic 8-ball. SpongeBob presents the magic conch as the thing that will get them out of the kelp forest and help them survive, acting as though the conch has actual answers that they may not have had access to otherwise. Squidward, skeptical, believes that the magic conch is nothing more than a toy, something that gives random answers. We, as the audience, are never told exactly which perspective is correct within the logic of the show's universe. If we were to take a step back and apply the situation to real life, like say that two guys are stranded in the desert and one of them was asking a magic 8-ball for advice, we would know, because we live in the same reality, that a magic 8-ball is nothing more than a toy. There has never been any evidence of the contrary. But the world of fiction, especially cartoon fiction, doesn't always apply to our perception of reality. So, in universe, is there plausible deniability to whether or not the magic conch is actually a magical and supernatural object? I spoke a little bit about plausible deniability when I discussed the episode Idiot Box and its awful sequel in a previous video, link in the description. And in that video, I talked about how the box in Idiot Box has plausible deniability for whether or not it is in fact a magical object capable of transporting SpongeBob and Patrick to another universe of imagination, or if it is just an empty box and all of the things Squidward hears are just his own imagination. The episode never gives an answer. It leaves it ambiguous. However, I feel like the narrative of Club SpongeBob is not communicating the same kind of ambiguity or plausible deniability that Idiot Box does. And it all comes down to what I think is the most important moment of the episode. Chapter 2. Fall right out of the sky. So, after the magic conch tells SpongeBob and Patrick to do
Nothing.
they obey, but skeptic Squidward decides to take some action, putting together as best he can some kind of shelter and fire. Squidward, emboldened by his meager achievements, mocks SpongeBob and Patrick for their faith in the magic conch. It's at this point he says this.
As if the answers to all your problems will fall right out of the sky.
And then immediately after, this happens. So all of this food falls down on SpongeBob and Patrick, seemingly rewarding them for their faith. Now, it is extremely important that the malfunctioning plane was shown to the audience because of our view of the magic conch. If this plane scene were cut out entirely, if as soon as Squidward said fall right out of the sky, all the food just fell right out of the sky, we'd be pretty sure that the magic conch is actually a divine being. But by showing the plane falling out of the sky, it actually shifts our perspective in the other direction and tells us that the magic conch is not magical. Now, there is still some plausible deniability. Perhaps the magic conch made that plane engine malfunction so that they would drop the load right in that moment, which, yes, that is an unfalsifiable claim. But that's not as strong of a claim as if the food just appeared out of thin air. Something that could only happen with some kind of magical intervention. The things that happened in this scene with the stuff falling out of the plane within the cartoon world all has a logical explanation. All of this is done to communicate the main lesson of the episode, the danger of confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is when a thing happens and you think that that thing happens because of this other thing that happened before, even though the link between those two things has not been proven. The easiest real-world example is when someone prays for their loved one to recover from a disease. Should the loved one recover, the person who said the prayer may be inclined to think that their prayer caused the loved one to recover, but there really can be no proven link between those two things. The more unlikely the sick person was to recover, the stronger the confirmation bias may be. Now, this is not to say that people should not pray or practice their faith, or that there is no benefit to doing so. Many feel comfort and community in doing so, and in a lot of cases, that is enough. This is only to say that it is not proven that there is a link between praying for something and that thing happening. It could be, but you can't prove it. And thinking that there is confirmation bias. Just like how connecting the magic conch to the plane flying overhead and dropping the load is also confirmation bias. But if it makes no difference whether or not the magic conch caused or did not cause the food to be given to SpongeBob and Patrick, why does discussing it matter? Well, it's because the conflicting beliefs that it did has a very real effect. Chapter 3. Power imbalance. So, after the food falls into the kelp forest, it is just kind of assumed by the group that SpongeBob and Patrick have ownership of it, and Squidward has to ask for it. But why is this the case? After all, the food fell on all of them. Why do SpongeBob and Patrick have power over it, and why does Squidward have to meekly ask for it? This situation teaches us the dangers of confirmation bias, and how, when confirmation biases are believed, a person or a group of people can take disproportionate power over another. Like I said earlier, we don't know if the magic conch actually made the food appear, but because of confirmation bias, SpongeBob and Patrick claim that it did.
The conch is the one who gave us this banquet.
And because they believe in the magic conch, and Squidward doesn't, they are the only ones who are allowed to have the food, because the food is tied to the magic conch. The link between them has not been proven, but because of confirmation bias, they believe that link exists. This in-group, out-group mentality goes even farther back, before the crisis, before the food appeared. SpongeBob and Patrick set up this dynamic all the way back at the beginning of the episode when they were talking all with the letter W and whatnot. The ways of speaking, the position of the treehouse high up, calling it a club, having a magic conch. These seem like arbitrary things, and they could have been done completely by accident, a result of SpongeBob and Patrick's silly childlike mind. But it doesn't matter why SpongeBob and Patrick did these things. What matters is that they created a power imbalance in doing so, and that is now leading to real-world consequences. Within this power structure, SpongeBob sets two criteria that would allow Squidward to share in the food. 1, Squidward has to admit belief in the magic conch, and 2, he has to ask the magic conch if he can have the food. And I would like to highlight that SpongeBob does decide this criteria, as the magic conch itself would be incapable of doing so. SpongeBob could step aside and let Squidward have the food and not say anything about the magic conch, but he doesn't. And he acts like it's actually the conch that isn't allowing Squidward to eat the food. Now, whether or not SpongeBob is a true believer in the conch is irrelevant. The reality is, 1, it isn't proven that the conch is real, and 2, there is no real reason to believe that the conch would stop Squidward from eating the food, or that there would be any negative consequences to him doing so. These two undeniable facts are not considered by SpongeBob and Patrick, not because they are evil, but because they gave into their confirmation bias. Squidward then asks the magic conch if he can have any of the food, to which this happens.
Could I have something to eat?
No.
Could I have something to eat?
No.
Could I have something to eat?
No.
Now, this is another element of plausible deniability. Is the magic conch actually choosing to deny Squidward food? He asks it so many times, and it says no every time. Patrick even asks it, and it says yes, so we know it is capable of saying yes. What are the odds that it would say no to Squidward so often? The conch must be able to make decisions on its own, right? It must be actively punishing him. Well, no, actually. This many no's in a row is in fact statistically possible. Unlikely, but possible, considering the conch has a 50% chance of saying no or yes, but also the conch doesn't only say no or yes, it also says nothing. And maybe it even says more things. So perhaps the magic conch is able to react to the speaker's tone, which would mean that maybe Squidward asked it angrily, which is why it said no, but it said yes to Patrick because Patrick had a little bit of better tone. I don't know. Or maybe even the way you pull the string can affect its answer. There are too many variables for anyone to be able to concretely say that the conch itself is in any way divine. Yet, because of all these social factors, because of the power imbalance, a person, well, an anthropomorphic octopus, is denied food, a real consequence based on an unfalsifiable and unproven claim. Wouldn't it be terrible if something like that were to happen in real life? The episode then ends when this guy shows up who they think is going to save them, and it turns out he has a magic conch too, which just tells them to do nothing again. Squidward then gives up and joins them, saying,
Oh, hail the magic conch!
showing that he's been broken into believing in it. It's a pretty dark ending, actually. I'm pretty sure they all just die there. You know, I mean, it's SpongeBob, so everything resets and all, but narratively, the ending communicates that if you operate on faith alone, if you don't have anything else to back it up, you end up stuck in the wilderness. This episode demonstrates how religion can take disproportionate power over others. In the real world, the gravitas of churches or other holy buildings, the rituals they do, the emphasis on in-group, out-group, the confirmation bias, once a group uses these things to hold on to power, and once you find yourself within the umbrella of that power, they can justify any kind of rule, no matter how arbitrary. In the case of SpongeBob and Patrick, they deny Squidward food. In the real world, you get, among other bad things, homophobia, transphobia, and the repealing of Roe v. Wade that led to so many states in America adopting forced birth policies. The basis of the conservative sides of these issues are rooted only in religion. The only way one can believe that there is a meaningful difference between whether or not a person dates someone of the same sex or opposite sex, or identifies with traits associated with a gender they were not assigned at birth, is to say, well, there's like a cosmic rule or something. A guy on a cloud said it. Duh. The only way to assign arbitrary value to a life form as simple as a fetus that would justify something as morally repugnant as a forced birth is to believe it was imbued with a soul. A real-world consequence justified by an unfalsifiable and unproven claim. Now, these positions I disagree with do have some secular arguments, but they're awfully weak. They would say straight people, make better parents. They would say trans people were happier with the gender they were assigned at birth. They would say that the moment a fetus gets a heartbeat, it should be assigned personhood. The former two arguments completely debunked by data, and the latter one not even remotely strong enough to justify violating bodily autonomy. It's no wonder most people who argue this nonsense have to make up stuff about the opinions of supernatural entities. Now, I believe this is not a problem inherent to people who have faith. In fact, all the things I just talked about have literally nothing to do with faith. You can believe in a deity and also be pro-gay or pro-trans or pro-choice. These things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, it's more consistent if you believe in some kind of moral arbiter of the universe. You would want to take on the stance that lets people who are in love be in love, would take on the stance that lets people live as their authentic self, would take on the stance that a person's entire life in regards to their own personal family planning should not be defined by something completely out of their control. A person who actually has faith, a real religious person, understands why they have faith and what they have faith in. The idea that something created the universe, that thing that did create the universe loves us and thinks about us, that's a beautiful thought. People believe that because they see the universe as something worth giving thanks for, and people believing in God for that reason is something worth preserving. In understanding that that is why people believe in God, even though I don't believe in that myself, I am able to better understand how we can properly untangle these nasty right-wing political prescriptions from actual, real, genuine faith. Seriously, just imagine how many fewer atheists there would be if the concept of faith hadn't been co-opted by evil conservative ideologues. Even I, myself, have faith. Now, I don't believe in the divinity of Jesus, Allah, a magic conch, or any other religious figure, but what I do have faith in is people. I do believe that there is something to us that makes us capable of good things inherently. I believe that everyone has the capacity to change and be good. That even though we've kinda lost our way at times and certainly have a lot of flaws, on average, people are worth it and people are good. In a way, this position can't actually be proven. It is unfalsifiable, just as unfalsifiable as the God of the Bible. And yet still, I believe it as strongly as the most genuine faithful people on earth believe in their respective deities. And this faith influences just about everything I do, just as the faith of religious people influences them. But what is the difference between positive faith that gives people hope and appreciation for the universe, and the kind of faith that gives people disproportionate power? How do we stop situations like SpongeBob, Squidward, and the magic conch? Yeah, did you forget this video was about a SpongeBob episode? I think the main principle that we should have in regards to faith is that for every faith-based position we hold, we need to have some kind of secular reasoning backing it up. After all, why would a god have a rule that doesn't have anything to do with our life on Earth? And don't you think it's oddly convenient that all of the religious rules that seem arbitrary are also rules that contribute to power imbalances? Strange. With this principle, those who have faith in a deity, those who have faith in the goodness of people, or those who have no faith at all, can find themselves agreeing on, actual, real principles with secular reasonings for their goodness. Things like the importance of sharing, giving, loving thy neighbor, subscribing to this channel, all proven moral principles. You have power over your own faith. You can take all the good and leave all the bad. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. Chapter 4. Author Intent and Audience Interpretation. There's one more concept that I need to discuss here, and that is the relationship between author intent and audience interpretation. I'm aware that a lot of the deeper discussion I had in this video regarding Club SpongeBob might not have been explicitly intended by the makers of the episode. I don't know for sure what the writers' exact intentions were in the writer's room. It's possible they weren't even thinking of religion when they wrote the episode, though that's pretty unlikely with the whole whole fell right out of the sky thing, that's pretty on the nose. However, it doesn't really matter exactly what was going on in the writers' heads when they made the episode. The themes and lessons the episode communicates are clear. SpongeBob creates a power imbalance using the magic conch. I see a parallel between this story and what I've seen religions do in real life, and in engaging with that, I was able to share my broader feelings and opinions about how faith should be viewed in our broader society. In order for me to interpret that, the writers had to intend something that was the very least related to that, and I think that is the most important part of engaging with the arts in general. Interpreting the art, finding meaning in it, no matter how much of it was explicitly intended, is what allows the arts to further our skills in thoughtfulness and empathy, which I believe is the reason that art exists at all. But you might not be all in on my laissez-faire attitude towards audience interpretation, because you might be worried that someone could just interpret anything to mean anything. I understand why you'd be concerned about that. While audience interpretation can differ from author intent, it is always related, and what I can interpret is within the confines of the things that the author presented to me. If I got something wrong in my interpretation, if I made a point that isn't true, if I presented the scenes incorrectly, do call me out for that, but don't say the author might not have actually intended this, because I know that. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I'm sure with a subject like this, I'm going to get lots of comments, so let's hear what you got to say in the comments. If you want to support the channel, I've got a Patreon, and you can become a channel member. Also, check out my gaming channel. I got a video over there about the SpongeBob movie GBA game and how it compares to the original film. You should really check it out.